All right, so this week on the Ticket Booth, we are talking about Smile it was from 2022. It's rated R, it's an hour and 55 minutes, and it's directed by Parker Finn. This is his first big movie debut. He has done a couple shorts before this one, but this is a monster all on its own, and I think for a first movie, he did a phenomenal job.
I think he did too.
I think I mentioned to you, I think it's very It Follows.
Oh, yeah, most certainly. Just the cinematography, color palette, the score. I mean, it wasn't exactly. It wasn't like
weird.
It was weird. It was like off-putting. Like it grated on your nerves.
Yeah.
You know, it was really effective.
Yeah, James. Nick, can we get the cam on James really quick? James, you got something stuck behind your ear. I don't know what's. Oh man, it's my copy of Rocky IV. Oh, this is awesome. I love Rocky IV and I love Stallone, and it's probably because we're talking about Tulsa King later on in the episode. How do you have this behind your ear?
Really, that's crazy. I don't know.
And you have your hood on. It's crazy that I even pulled this.
Shit gets stuck back there all the time.
Yeah.
Like, that's where I pulled this notebook out of, actually.
All right, so let me see. Pull up who's starring. We have Sosie Bacon playing Rose Cotter, Jesse T. Usher playing Trevor, Kyle Gallner playing Joel, Rose's ex-boyfriend, and a couple other people that really aren't in the movie all that much. I mean, they're not the main people.
Yeah.
So let me get to the start here. We're just going to do a quick recap, as quick as we can, recap of the movie, and then just kind of talk about what we thought about it. So, Smile. I want to talk about the opening because this movie starts out with Rose, who is, it starts out with her as a child, and she's witnessing her mother's death. Her mom, it was kind of like a Pink Floyd The Wall scan across the floor. We see pills, we see bottles of booze, we see cigarette butts. So obviously her mom had a problem.
And it's graphic. You see
it's
the
graphic.
Vomit and
everything. It's a little rough.
Yeah, it's pretty...
Not as graphic as the opening to Midsummer. That's suicide.
But it kind of evoked that kind of feel.
Okay.
Like, that same long draw.
Yeah.
But not quite as
graphic. That's super graphic.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's another movie. So after we see her as a child witnessing her mother's death, it cuts to her in her office. She's now a doctor that manages highly mentally unstable patients.
Yeah, mental health ward kind of.
Right, because most psychologists, they're fucked up from something that happened in their youth, and so they're like, I want to put myself around that fucked upness for my whole life.
They gotta feel like they gotta heal everybody else because of their damage.
That's deep.
It's typical. Speaking from my own.
But we see her dealing with one unstable patient in particular. And shortly after that, it cuts to her talking to her boss in the office, and her boss is Kumar. I forget his actual name, but you know who I'm talking about.
Cal Penn. Yeah, fucking awesome. It was good to see him.
You're a better person than I am, because it's fucking Kumar.
Yeah.
You know?
Penn, yeah, he's a good dude.
Yeah.
I haven't seen him in anything in a while. But, I mean,
he did a great job.
Yeah.
So he's her boss, but anyway, he tells her that they have an assignment, and there was a high stress patient that she needs to go see. It's this girl that got arrested for violent behavior after witnessing the suicide of her professor at school. So she goes and meets up with this girl. The girl's strung out. Well, not on drugs, but she's all wigged out and shit. She's like in the corner. And which is a cool thing about this movie is almost every scene is such a big, wide, open space, and your focal point is on one pinpoint. And it just kind of gives you this feeling of like, oh, I am fully aware of everything that's in the room.
Right.
Except for what's immediately behind me, which they really play on in this movie. So she meets up with this girl. She's freaking out, and she says that she's seeing things. She's seeing a figure that it can look like other people. It can look like people she knows. It can look like anybody, which is like It Follows.
It Follows, yeah.
You know. But then she says it's always smiling at her. Some gross, evil smile.
Not a good smile.
Right. And the monster told her that today is the day she was going to die. And so as Dr. Rose is trying to comfort, this girl, she looks over and it's a cool shot because it's just a shot of her face and she's looking at us, the audience. And we see that turn of emotions as she sees something and she starts freaking out. She's like, oh my God, it's here, blah, blah, blah. And then she's on the floor choking. and then dies. And as Dr. Rose is on the phone calling emergency, she turns around and the girl is immediately standing back up, looking right at her. This is where that weird soundtrack comes into play because it kills the noise of the room or the people. It's just that weird, it's not even music, it's just like weird sound effects and
it's
shit.
just discordant, like, tones and stuff.
Right.
And
so she, this girl is standing smiling at her and just takes a piece of broken ceramic or plaster or whatever and starts cutting her own throat real slow. And you're just like, holy shit, holy shit, holy shit. And, she falls over, dies, still smiling.
Yeah.
And then it immediately goes black. And then it cuts to the logo of this movie it's like a neon sign strobing.
Flashing, just smile in big, sharp, pointy neon.
The music reminded me of Requiem for a Dream, where it's like,
yeah.
it's just like, I texted you as soon as I saw that scene. I'm like, I just audibly, uncontrollably laughed.
Yeah.
Because it was just like such a shift in your gut.
It was jarring. Yeah, it was weird.
It's like, that's the name of the movie. It's called Smile.
James, who's that filmmaker that always does the stroby text? He did The Void and like Irreversible or another like fucked up movie.
God, you know better than I would.
But it's all of his text, even like besides title card, like all the ending credits are just wah 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 wah, like
Is
vibrating.
it the guy who did that Nicolas Cage movie that we talked about?
I don't know.
Remember that Nicolas Cage movie that was like H.P. Lovecraft?
Oh,
it was
Color Out of Space.
Color Out of Space.
That was Richard Stanley of Hardware who directed it.
Okay.
Yeah.
No.
I'm
Hardware Daddy.
There's one guy that I know of that does some kind of stuff, but I've only seen one movie that he's done, and it was I Can See You, and his name was not Alan Resnick.
I was just curious. I don't want to throw us off.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, I can't. My memory and smoked a lot of stuff.
Yeah, we're all there. We're all there. So after the incident, it cuts to her being interrogated by the cops. One of the cops we find out is one of her ex-boyfriends. They're just trying to figure out what's all going on, and then she goes home for the day. And this is first of many, and I didn't have a problem with it. I just thought it was funny. Upside down shots in this movie, and I put in my little text here. I'm like, upside down shots. What are you, Artsy Malone or something? Like, it's gonna be funny.
Yeah.
But it's a lot of weird.
There's plenty of the upside down shots that go. Yeah, it's becoming a trend, I think.
So she's going home. She starts drinking just like her mama, And this is a really good scene because she's just trying to calm down, decompress. She slams that glass of wine, and as she's standing there in front of her fridge, she looks in the corner of her kitchen. And you see just a fucking person standing in the shadows, smiling at her.
Yeah.
And this is the shit that you think about when you're at your own house.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, I'm going to turn around. There's going to be someone there fucking smiling at me or some weird creepy shit. And that was a great little scare.
It was awesome.
Super effective. It wasn't a jump scare. It was just like, and they literally just lingered the camera on her.
Yeah.
Like you're waiting for her to jump or do something and she does fucking nothing.
Right. And it's like unnerving. Like it's really well done.
Oh, it was fantastic. And Rose's boyfriend comes home, and he seems kind of like an asshole. He's just like not involved. He doesn't want to be involved in her issues.
He's like the type of dude that the moment that shit starts to get difficult, like he's like, I'm really starting to second guess this whole relationship type stuff.
You're messing with my career. Blah, blah.
Yeah. He's not feeling it. It just kind of right off the bat, he just seems like he's kind of a dick.
Dude's never had a crazy girlfriend before. You need to put the work in, buddy. So anyway, they're talking about they got to go out to dinner with Rose's sister. And he's like, oh, maybe we should bail. And she's like, nah. But they should have, because they go there and they just have a bad time. They're arguing with each other because Rose's sister is like a stay-at-home suburban mom, like baking cookies and getting him to school and getting little Timmy to gymnastics or fucking whatever. And her husband's just kind of the husband character's kind of funny because he's the sub.
Oh yeah,
in the relationship.
Yeah, he totally
She barks and he's just like, whoa.
Right. He's a doofus and kind of an asshole himself. I mean, and just they're arguing about like selling the house and all this other stuff, and ultimately it just seems like her and her sister don't really have all that great of a relationship.
Yeah, absolutely. But her sister does mention that Rose's nephew's birthday party is on Saturday.
Yes.
So Rose says, I can't go, I gotta work. And that's the case for now.
But soon she's gonna have herself a nice little vacation.
All right, so the next day, she goes into work, and the patient that she was dealing with at the beginning of the movie, not the one that killed herself, he's normally a very submissive patient. He's just rattled. And she goes in and she sees him, and he's smiling. And she's like, what the fuck? So she goes in there. She's,
oh, man, that when you walk past that frame and you see him, you know, dude.
It's
you,
great.
You don't really see his whole face, but it's just shadow. But you see his cheeks.
Yeah.
And you see just the highlight of his cheeks and the shadow of his eyes. And,
yep.
And it's just enough to know, like, oh, God, this is... And it gets bad.
Yeah, and so he freaks out at her. And she's, like, immediately running in the hallway like, he needs to be suppressed. He's freaking out, blah, blah, blah. And the audience sees a shot as soon as security runs in there. The dude's just laying on his bed.
Yeah, yeah.
He's just minding his own business.
He's not doing shit.
So, of course, Kumar is pissed.
Yeah.
He's like, yo, you're freaking out at work. It's very clear to see. And I don't like it.
She's getting weird. She's getting weird.
He's like, this guy's a submissive patient. You're freaking out. You need to take a week off work. So she's like, all right, cool. Well, she doesn't want to, but she does it anyway.
Yeah, she's been like working 80-hour weeks and stuff like that. Like, she needs to take a break.
And so on her way home, she stops at this train store, this hobby shop, to get her nephew a train for his birthday, because that's what her sister said he was into. And then she goes home, and this is when she's home alone, and she's having a glass of wine, having her drink, whatever. And then the phone rings out of the blue, and she drops her glass of wine. This bitch has to only have 2 glasses left. At the rate that she's dropping glasses.
She's dropping another glass.
You know, it's like, give me a fucking break. You know, and I think her boyfriend mentions that. He's like, did you break another glass? That's his main concern. He's like,
well, yeah, because then...
I just bought these.
And I think that's when also, coincidentally, that Mustache, the cat, goes missing.
So that's immediately after this, because she gets the call, and as she's talking to the security person, the home alarm person on the phone, the voice changes. It starts out as like, are you okay? Is everything all right? Are you alone?
Yeah.
Are you sure?
Are you sure? Yeah.
You know, and then she starts freaking out, and she's listening to this voice say some weird fucked up shit. And then the phone rings again, and she realizes she's not even on the phone.
Yeah.
So she's bugging out. And then, you know, the security, the cops come, all that shit. They realize Mustache, the cat, is nowhere to be found. The cops are like, this happens all the time, whatever. You know, the boyfriend, it's one step closer to the edge, and he's about to break. Yeah. You know, he's getting tired of it.
He's listening to a lot of Linkin Park on the way home from work, and probably.
And after this, you know, her and her boyfriend fight. They go to bed. She wakes up, and we get a really great jump scare. She's listening to the audio of her talking to the patient, and she sees in the waves a little whisper. And so she, you know, enhance, you know. Yeah. And it's like, Rose, Rose, Rose. Until, literally, because she's staring at the computer screen, it cuts right to the right of her, and there is someone in her face going, Rose! And, like, screams at her. And I was like, holy fuck! You know?
It was
great jump scare. But she, you know, she goes back to listen to it, and it's not there. So it was all in her fucking head.
Yeah. I forgot about that part.
Oh, dude, I don't know how. That was such a great jump scare.
No, it was. I forgot about that. The audio part. I remember the jump scare itself, but the audio leading up to it was like, that was like put me on edge so much.
Because you're leaning up, listening.
You're so honed in on it, and then all of a sudden it's just that, and it was like, oh, god damn it. Very good.
So the days go on, and it leads up to Rose's nephew's birthday. She wraps up this present, this train, and she goes to the party.
And that party scene...
It was hard to watch because you know something shitty is going to happen.
Like, even, like, you know things are going to get bad because she's, like, super stressed. But when they're singing Happy Birthday, it's just, like, that was, like...
Oh, and it slows down,
and
the
you see
drops.
her smiling, and it's, like, you're thinking about it, like, fuck, dude, like... It makes you think about the smile that she has to force.
Oh, yeah.
While she's there. And
I did that all day today with retail.
And it's like, you know, it's awful, dude. And like,
but you see this train wreck coming.
Oh, right. You absolutely know that some awful shit's going to happen. And it does in the worst possible way.
So what happens?
So, what's his name?
I don't know. It's their nephew.
It's Devin.
It's Tyson, Timmy.
Tyler.
Yeah, whatever. Like Lance.
Cute kid. Friggin' starts opening the present, and it's the train box, but then he opens it, and you see his face, and it's he's not happy, dude.
Yeah.
Oh, man. It's like, what the fuck? And it's Mustache.
Yeah, he just pulls up this dead cat right out of the box. And I wrote in my note, let's see, it's, she visits her therapist, then she goes to her nephew's birthday party and gives him a dead cat mustache as a present. People are obviously upset. Because she's just standing in the middle like, you gotta believe me! Like, she's doing the freaked out thing. Yeah. You're looking like a crazy person.
Exactly. She's got Mustache in her arms and stuff, and she's, like, cradling Mustache, and it's just really, really difficult. Everybody's freaking out, and she stumbles back. She trips on the carpet behind her, the rug, and crashes back first through a glass table. And just
it's all chunks in her arms.
Chunks of glass in her arms, and she just starts screaming.
But she did such a great job. Sozy is the name of the actress.
Yeah.
That scream she gave out, it wasn't like a scream. It was like a guttural. Like I imagine that's how I would scream.
Yeah, it's not just the pain. It's the whole. It's everything. Just that would be like, oh my god, dude.
Knocked it out of the park.
She was fantastic the whole fucking way, man.
So after the party, when she's in the hospital, her boyfriend is talking to Rose's sister in the hallway, obviously, because he's there to check on her. And he's pissed off because she's getting crazier and crazier.
Going back and forth.
And what blew my mind in this scene is that night, he sleeps on the couch. The boldest fucking move in this whole movie is that this guy, after his girlfriend has been spiraling out of control, has said she's seeing monsters and shit, killed a cat, put it in a box, and gave it to a nephew for his birthday. He's like, yeah, the couch is cool. It's a wide open space, what the fuck, dude? Like, come on.
Yeah, at this point, I'd probably be sleeping somewhere else.
Locked door.
Yeah, yes.
The bathroom, whatever.
I just wouldn't tell her where I was going,
But, so obviously they're clashing. They're not spending too much time together. So this gives Rose an opportunity to meet up with her ex, the police officer, and do some more research on this.
Oh, wait, hold on. Before we get into this, there's this one awesome...
Do you have a copy of Rambo 5 down there?
No, but I do have this Moon Knight issue.
Oh, man.
No, but one of my favorite shots is when she's in the hospital and she's watching her sister and her husband argue, and or not her husband, but her boyfriend, fiance, argue, and she's looking at the poster with the pain.
Oh, thing. Yeah.
And you see, like, what's your pain?
Frown.
Yeah, with 0 to, 10. And 0 has, pain-free with that, very blank, dead-eyed smile.
Yeah, it's not a happy smile.
Yeah, and it just says 0 pain next to it. And I fixated on that, and it was like, God damn it, dude.
That's retail face.
Yeah.
Dude, my muscles can only, be forced into that position for so long before I'm just like...
Yeah, I believe it, man. It would suck.
Welcome to Spencer's.
But it also kind of hit me in a weird kind of visceral way, I guess. Being forced to smile in circumstances where you're not necessarily happy.
Yeah.
Sucks.
It does.
And that was a good shot. And I love that. It was a fantastic scene.
Yeah, we get actually a lot of cuts like that in this movie where it's like when she's at the hobby shop, it cuts to a train set billboard where it's a whole family smiling
outside the window.
And stuff
you
like
get
that.
this.
Doom! That's all right. Doom's down for the count.
Doom, he'll be back. It's comic books, man.
But this gives Rose some time, now that her and her boyfriend are on the rocks. And she's got no work. She's on a vacation. To do some research, try to figure this out. So she goes to her ex-boyfriend, and does research on previous victims, and finds that it trails back a little bit. She visits one of the victims' houses whose wife is still alive. The wife lets her into her husband's room, shows it's just pictures of smiling demons and shit.
Artwork that he made during his madness.
Before he killed himself.
Yeah.
And so she gets a little insight into that. And then her ex-boyfriend does more research and goes, yo, this goes 20 cases back of people witnessing suicides and then killing themselves, and witnessing suicides and then killing themselves. And it all stops there's one weird link, and it's a guy who's in prison because he killed somebody. So Rose goes to visit the guy in prison, and she finds out from him that in order to stop it from getting you, because she's not blowing her cover, she doesn't want to say that it's attacking her.
Right.
And he says that he killed somebody and had to have someone witness it and suffer trauma in order for it to transfer.
It's about spreading the trauma.
It's about spreading the trauma. And so she flubs up, and she's like, I can't kill somebody. Oops. You know, like, you fucking idiot.
He fucking loses his shit.
And that's a great scene because it's really uncomfortable because he's just genuinely bugging out. It's always crazy to see a grown-ass man just bugging out on that level.
Yeah, it's really... everything about this movie, man. Like, when people are melting down and stuff, like, you feel it.
Genuine.
Yeah.
Super genuine. Yeah. So, let's see here. But yeah, she finds out that that's what she has to do. She doesn't want to do it. She doesn't, but she's thinking about it. She's mulling the idea.
Weighing her options.
Right. She even shows up at the hospital, I think, with a knife in her car to kill that one submissive patient from from the beginning.
Yeah.
And she dreams it. That she does it, and then she snaps to in her car.
She's having all these hallucinations, and they're basically daytime dreaming, and she's outside the hospital, contemplating walking in, and she sees him in the room, and she just walks up and I forgot what she says.
I don't remember what she says, but she just starts fucking stabbing him.
And like he doesn't really react, and you think it's just shock at first. And no, you know what it was? Cal Penn walked in. Cal Penn, because he witnessed it, and that's when she decided.
Oh, yeah, because he walks into the room as she's stabbing him, and he peels his fucking face off.
Yeah, but before that, he walks in, and then she realizes, oh shit, it's now or never. She pulls the knife out, starts stabbing the one guy, and he doesn't really react. In fact, he just starts smiling and laughing at her face while he's stabbing her, or while she's stabbing him. And then Cal Penn, he's losing his shit, and then he just starts peeling his face off, and it's just like, everybody just screaming.
Fucking crazy. And then she snaps too.
Yes.
She's in her car.
Outside. Exactly where she was in the start of the scene.
Knife laying next to her, and that's when Cal Penn, Kumar, actually walks out, and he's like, hey, are you okay? He
still has his face.
Yeah.
He still has his face.
Yeah. So it was all a dream, but he sees the knife in her car, and he's like, whoa. And she just pulls out of there. She's like, oh, I'm getting out of here. And so after that, she goes to her sister's house to apologize, where we get another phenomenal scare. And she's trying to explain to her sister, she's like, look, this is what happened. I'm being chased by this thing. It's killed all these people. And obviously her sister just thinks she's fucked up and crazy because her mom was fucked up and crazy. And she's just like, you're sounding like mom did, blah, blah, blah. And then she walks in and leaves her sister alone. And so Rose walks back to her car, sits in her car, and the shot is from outside the driver's window. And we see her sister walk immediately out of the house, walk up to the car, and then is at waist level with the window.
Her arms are folded.
A couple of seconds goes by, and then her fucking head swings in upside down, smiling. Totally catches you off guard. Because you think she's just running out to yell at her or something. You don't see a smile on her face as she's walking out. Because it's a hallucination. She wouldn't have a smile. And, that was a great scare. I see people talking about that one on Facebook still.
Yeah, that was a great one.
Because you don't expect it. And so after she does that, I think Rose just really takes it upon herself to visit her old house, her mom's old house. Right?
Before that, final nail in the coffin, her therapist, she has a couple sessions with her old therapist.
Well, the therapist just shows up at her house.
But before that, she tried to get prescribed meds, and then, her therapist's like, no, we're not going to do all that. So there's, some context there. Her therapist thinks that she's kind of losing her shit.
Right.
And her husband tries to get her therapist involved, so that pushes that divide between her and her fiancé. So I think he finally says, or he's out, or she leaves him, or whatever. And then the therapist does show up at the house, uninvited.
Right.
And that was a fucking fantastic scene.
Well, yeah, because she's like, I can't just walk away from you knowing that you're a potential harm to yourself.
Right.
So you need to prove to me that you're not a harm to yourself. And that was a good scene. I thought it was pretty solid.
But she didn't, it wasn't really her though.
Right. It was just the smile
demon thing. Yeah,
right.
And it was like that whole scene where she just drool pouring out of her mouth. And it was like,
it was gross.
Yeah, it was gross.
But obviously, this thing is getting closer and closer to Rose as the days
it's pushing her towards the edges of her sanity,
Right.
Because when it gets her alone, in order for it to function, there has to be like, a witness present, but it can keep on pressing her while she's alone.
Right. But this pushes her to go to her old family home to kind of confront her demons. I think she's at a point where she's like, I got to confront these demons. If this is about trauma and my trauma, I got to push past that. So she shows up at her old, dilapidated, busted up house. Everything's all the same. And she walks to the door where we saw from the beginning of the movie where her mom was dead already. And she opens the door and her mom is sitting in the bed. Just like alive.
But man, that whole scene where she's exploring that cottage and there's that sound, the ambience and stuff like that, sound engineering. But continue,
yeah, knocked it out of the park with the score, just making for the setting and everything.
Yeah, fucking awesome. Yeah, but mom's in the room sitting.
She confronts her mom and they're having a conversation, and she's basically at a point where she's like, "Look, I'm sorry. I've been carrying this guilt because I saw you killed yourself. You called out to me for help, and you didn't help." And her mom's like, why didn't you help? And she's like, well, you were mean and scary and an alcoholic, and I was a kid, and I didn't know what to do. And at this point, I've carried this guilt for all my life, and I'm ready to let it go. And I think that's at this point where the monster, the demon, whatever, just comes in full force.
Yeah.
It turns into this big, like, scary looking human.
It turns into like a 9 foot tall. I know it was a male. I looked up the actor that played it, and it's like this. It's kind of like that Javier Botet guy.
Okay.
He plays a lot of creatures and like kind of like Zelda from Pet Sematary type. Those types of
grotesque, gangly human being.
It was really effective because it was a small set and it's just like giant
creeping in.
Awesome friggin' shot and and she asks her why she's doing this and it responds, your mind is so inviting.
Yeah, it's like, you make it easy for me. Right. And so they're fighting it out, and eventually she gets loose and knocks over a lantern, which starts a fire in the house. And so she leaves, she escapes because the beast looks like it was set on fire. The house was on fire. She's like, we're in the clear.
Yeah, because before that, it had her in a chokehold hold, and it basically said, she gave the ultimatum, but because it was in her head, she could defeat it and smashed it. She presumes that it's defeated. And,
right. And so she walks out and she goes to her ex-boyfriend, the cop,
yes,
and she's talking to him. And as they're talking, it's just like the phone call from earlier. His dialogue, his tone starts to change, and then he starts smiling. And so she's like, she freaks out that it's not, and she snaps too, right? From another nightmare, basically.
Well, because she tries to run outside the door and finds out that she just ran outside the cabin.
Oh, okay, that's what it was.
And he's there.
Yep. And so that's when we see her. He's going to the cabin. And he opens it up, and she's inside, and he sees her, and he hears
she's turned around, facing away from him, and she's
liquid pouring.
Yeah, she has the can of kerosene over her head.
Right. She's just pouring it over her, and then she turns around. She's got a box of matches. And a big old smile on her face. I forgot to mention, though, that we get to see the monster creep inside of her. She loses the battle with the monster.
Right.
And the thing, rips its face off, and it looks so fucking cool.
Dude, it's and it's...
mouths within mouths and shit.
Yeah, dude, it's just and that's when you see her just go completely broken. She just cannot take it. Her face is just...
The monster stretches open her jaw and creeps inside. But she turns around, she's got a box of matches, and she sets herself on fire, and we see, from our point of view, the boyfriend witnessing the suicide. So the chain is going to continue until there's a smile, too.
There's that last shot of just his eyeball, where it's you can see it dilate, and it looks like it starts to form a smile in the flames, and it's oh, dude.
And that's another thing about this movie. So that was the movie. one cool thing that they did, just like you said with the smile, there was hidden smiles, not really hidden, but there was smiles throughout the whole movie. When the girl kills herself in the beginning, they have the sheet over her in the morning, and it's the blood smile.
Yeah.
And we just see little things set up to look like smiles throughout the whole thing.
I figured there would be. That movie's so, you could tell that their art direction was so on point.
Yeah.
That they knew what they were doing and making sure that being sneaky and putting those things in there,
Yeah. So, great cinematography, great story. Not the most unique story, but I think he changed it enough to make it work.
Right. It was definitely, like, point out, it follows.
Yeah.
Very follows suit into that, But.
Fantastic score. I think we both think it's got a fantastic score.
Yes, very much
Not
so.
that there was, like, music, but it was just everything they did sound-wise added to the feel of the movie. Phenomenal. Loved it. So at the end of the day, I would say that Smile is definitely watchable. I would highly suggest it. How about you?
Oh, it was great. Fantastic. Blew my expectations out of the water. Like you pointed out, I mean, there's nothing that I could say that you haven't already said, so.
Yeah, I feel like I know it's a good movie when you and me are texting each other while watching the movie.
Oh, dude.
This scene, oh my God, blah, blah, blah. But, Smile was great.
Yeah.
Go check it out. So
it looks like, sorry to cut you off. It looks like a mix of The Ring and It Follows.
It really does.
That's the vibe I got from the trailer. And
100%. I thought about The Ring a lot too when I was watching it, because there's a lot of those like over the top shots that kind of like turn, like the upside down ones.
Yeah.
Some of those kind of like start off kind of like The Ring, where it was just like the driving shots of her just driving stuff like that.
I watched The Ring it was still in October, but I hadn't watched The Ring since it came out probably, and I don't even think I've ever seen the whole movie because I was like, teenage angst. I'm like, PG-13 horror movie, this is gonna fucking suck, blah, 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 blah. And it was a great movie. I just watched it in full last month. It's phenomenal.
Yeah,
it's great. And so I downloaded The Ring Girl and Dead by Daylight, and it's not a coincidence she's in the meta right now, the top killers, but I just wanted to try her out. It looked fun. But anyway, that's it for the Ticket Booth. We're moving on to our final segment, which I